Hey, security peeps. We are back with another special edition of Breaking Into Cybersecurity. I have two wonderful guests here. I am Renee Small, cybersecurity super recruiter, helping amazing cybersecurity talent get into opportunities as well as leaders to hire great talent. And today, my two awesome guests are from FCC. They are going to introduce themselves. First, you all know Julie Broadway. She's been here a number of times. Everyone has said how much they wanted to have Julie come back. They love the quick tip sheet that you provided in the past. So Julie will introduce herself, and then we'll go to Alex Harrington, which is Julie's counterpart. He also is at FCC. And Alex, I believe you're the director over there, right?
Well, I would say that by title only, but there's such a great team around me that I'm just the shadow now.
He's very modest.
That's what all the nice guys
Alex actually started this great organization, I think about 9-10 years ago.
Wow.
And so it's grown over the years. This last 2 years have been fantastic. And so your audience is just yet another piece to our big puzzle of trying to get the word out there and demystify the federal hiring process. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, is when I started this was actually a requirement for one of my credentials in career coaching. And so it was actually, I briefed it out at George Washington for my requirement back in 2012, and it basically took on its own life. The funny thing is, actually, in late 2018, early 2019, I thought about closing doors. I was going through some health complications, and I just asked for a couple of speakers to take my workshops, and then eventually it just end up today with more than a handful of great volunteers we're just doing I would say they're doing a great job reaching those individuals in career transition, to understand and to navigate the federal hiring process.
Absolutely. I thank you for starting this almost 10 years ago. Wow. And to learn that this was a project of a class, baked out of or coming out of your career coaching background. So I want to hear all about that, Alex, since you have this federal background, you have this career coaching background. So talk to us about what FCC does. I know Julie has shared with us in the past about your mission, and I know demystifying the federal process. Talk to the folks about how our audience about, what you do. I know you have monthly or bi-monthly?
Monthly.
Yeah, monthly meetings. So talk to them about what FCC is and how it's evolved over the years.
So what it is, basically, it's the whole intent is to equip job seekers or any individual in career transition with value added information to enhance their individual marketability. And Julie it's kind of funny how we met at work. We worked for a same agency. She was right next to me, and as we got to know each other, she just came out to volunteer or just check out Federal Career Connection. And long story short, she became the deputy director, my right hand. Really, my right-hand man, I would say my way, and I say this with love because I'm happily married, but Julie in a lot of ways is my community wife. She watches out for my blind side. But professionally, how we interact with each other is I'm really the hiring manager. I'm not HR. I work with an HR environment, but my skill sets, my experience is actually building teams and interviewing individuals and putting together interview panels. So for me, I represent part of that job announcement as your audience. I would assume they kind of scan each day when they look at the critical selection factors or the how to apply. There's a selection called either KSAs, knowledge, skills, or abilities, or key criteria. That's normally the hiring manager or the hiring team. The job duties is it's my colleague, Julie. She's the HR side. Mm-hmm. So when they're applying for a federal job, they're essentially writing to two groups. Number one, human resources, because Julie protects the merit system. She protects, she's really the guardian of federal hiring to make sure she's upholding when it comes to the merit principles. And she keeps hiring managers like myself within the correct guidelines when it comes to recruiting and interviewing and hiring. For myself, I'm just trying to fill a critical need in a position to help achieve the organization's priorities. So her and I, how we serve in the community, we literally go hand in hand. I'm the hiring manager. She's HR. She's the policies, the law, Title V, all that good stuff. I'm the one who's thinking about core competencies, critical elements. Can they do the job? Can they do it within 3 months, 6 months, 9 months? So it's quite a great relationship. And we're kind of the living extension of a job announcement. I'm the key selection factors, and Julie is the job duties.
Well, that's very well put. And it's great to be able to have this dynamic with Alex here that we haven't had in the last couple of episodes. We've talked a lot about the HR side of the resume process and hiring authorities, specifically to your community. There are so many great hiring authorities available for cybersecurity, IT, cyber in general right now. And so that's all human resources and going out and getting the legislation or working with Office of Personnel Management to get these authorities so we can get these great people on board as quickly as possible. So it's awesome to be able to talk through these questions and help your audience, hopefully navigate this with a little bit more ease. So I'm not sure. I'm glad that hi, BB. It's good to see you. BB is one of our newest members of our team, and she is awesome. It's really going to be helping us out and has a cybersecurity background as well. So awesome. I'm really excited for her to meet you. She came to us. So it's amazing the word of mouth. She knew you and how we all get connected. This is really such a great platform that you have in trying to reach these people and helping them navigate this process.
Yeah, and I'll commend you, Renee. One of my favorite books out there is called The Coming Jobs War. The author is actually from the Gallup. I want to say it's actually Clifton. But what I loved about in this book, there's a section that he talked about the only way to really drive our economy when it comes to the jobs market is through community outreach. And so what I love about this, because as a Fed, I don't see instant impact on my stakeholders. So my community involvement, and I've always been, wherever I've been, I've jumped into community. I love being that we are part of the jobs we're trying to help people obtain gainful employment. So that's really cool.
For sure. Do you guys hear an echo with me?
Could that be me, or is that?
No, I think I'm good now. But at one point, just now, I just felt very weird when it came to the volume. And but I said it sounds good now. But yeah, BB. What the thing is, the reason why I asked about BB is because she is always on various live streams. So this is so exciting. So now this is all working out, which I love. I love this. This is community. Like this is how it works, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead, Alex. Go ahead.
I was going to say, BB is a great example of when it comes to networking through this, when it comes to the online median, because she's from Toronto. Toronto, Canada. And so when we put out that announcement looking for a social media coordinator, which she reached out, I'm sorry about that. She reached out to us. And of course, another individual reached out. So she's a great example of basically being connected online, branding yourself, because she really stood out. And now she's part of our team.
That is so
yes,
awesome.
The power of social media today. That is definitely for sure. We just had up a networking. Our webinar last week was on networking and utilizing social media to its fullest potential. And so I see that with your community so much. And not only are they networking with each other, but they're really encouraging each other and providing job opportunities and announcements for if they're already a Fed or a contractor. And really sharing the wealth. And that's what this is all about. So that's what we're here today for. So really hoping that there's some questions tonight.
Yeah. Value. What questions? Yeah.
What questions do people have? Well, I could kick it off with the usual, because I hear it all the time. And Julie, you probably heard this one. But Alex, you know what? I want to dig into when you're posting for a job. And I love to have hiring managers on. Because people, everyone wants to know, like, what are you looking for? What do you look for in interviews? What do you look for? How do people get through the process? So when they apply through usajobs.gov or when they apply through the different agencies, on the side of you, when you're looking at the various applicants, what are the top 2 to 3 things that you're looking for when you see that application completed?
So I'll give a two-part answer. So number one, just let you know as a preface to this. So as a hiring manager, I'm very much intertwined with HR. So where I'm at, I worked with our HR, and I actually even developed the position descriptions, a lot of them, to be able to use for job announcements. But there's a two-part answer to your question, what we're looking for. So number one, and I know cybersecurity is quite unique. It has a direct hiring authority, actually, through the Department of Homeland Security. And the best way to learn how to navigate or how to actually really enhance your marketability, use the analogy, if you want to learn how to sing opera, you don't go to a mechanic, you go to an opera singer. So I'm assuming each one of your members, each one of your audiences actually has a mentor or someone who's their job shadowing, or they're doing information interviews with, or they're connecting with somebody who's actually in cybersecurity, learning from the horse's mouth, so to speak, of how to navigate that system. Just to let you know. Because for me, when I broke in my first job out of college, when I got out of the Marines and I went to college, the hardest job I had was getting a job in public relations. The only way I was able to do that was I built my own youth program in Mansfield, Ohio, and I did my own PR campaign. So I was able to get experience from that area. And so for your audience, the best way to break into cybersecurity is to find yourself a mentor. Find somebody who's seasoned, who knows how to navigate the system. So that's the kind of the preface to the preface. My first part answer is I look for, number one, the universal soft and technical skills, especially that's going across the government right now. Project management is like one of the top skills to have, because there are a lot of, in every department, there's always projects going along. And then one thing about projects, you want to deliver on time, and you want to deliver also with value. So project management, and also program development, and also having a strategic mindset. I don't care if you're a janitor, when you work for an organization, you're part of that organization. So everything you do needs to align to that organization's strategic or its priorities. If you don't want to align to that priorities, then start your own company. So I do look for strategic mindset, project management, program development. And I have to admit, one of the key upcoming great skills to have, a key skill, is data analysis, to be able to work with quantitative and qualitative information. One thing I love doing right now, and I'm doing it right now, I'm jumping into the FEB survey for my agency, going way back to 2006, and doing analysis of any questions dealing with performance. So I'm always looking for an individual who can take a bunch of information, either numbers or qualitative data such as news articles, to be able to actually pull things from. So that's the universal requirements I'm looking for. But then there's the position. Number two is the position critical element. So that really depends on the position and how that position is supporting the organization's priorities. So when I build either building a position description or trying to fill an existing position, I always sit down and I look at the key critical elements, those core competencies. And those competencies encompass skills, knowledge, skills, and abilities, and even professional characteristics. And I literally, when I construct them and they meet my needs or meet the organization's needs, then we do the announcement. And when I look at the resumes, and I remember one time I had one job opening and have over 400 resumes, office cert, whatever. And I literally just had all my list of core competencies on the wall. I had about 10 of them. And I literally looked at all the resumes, scanned them. And if there was a resume that had 80% of the core competencies within the 2 pages, it went to the right. If I had to search for one competency, it went to the left. I'm not going to pour a glass of wine in front of a fireplace and read the whole resume. No way. I take about 10 seconds on a resume. And when I look at a resume, I don't look at gaps. I don't look at your GPA. I don't look at your whatever, your Ivy Leagues, whatever. I only care about me. And I only care about the position's requirements. I'm looking at core competencies. And so if I don't find 80% within 2 pages, You go to the left, and that's how it goes. So we sum up. The first requirement is making sure all you folks out there, making sure you're developing kind of universal soft and technical skills that you can literally transcend in any organization. I use the term lift and shift in any organization. Even as a cybersecurity, you're going to manage a project, so you're going to have project management skills. You got to be able to use a Gantt chart or management by objectives, or know what a logic model is. And these are all 101 requirements for project management. And then, of course, when you're applying for that job announcement and you look at the job duties, which is my colleague, this way, I think I got it right, which is my colleague. We get down to the key selection factors. I'm the Michael Scott of the paper company. Those are things I care about. And if your resume talks those key selection factors, and they meet 80% of them on my wall within 2 or 3 pages, 2 pages, the best for me, then you may actually get a phone interview.
So, Alex, you touched on a number of different things. The first part, I just want to make sure that people are aware of what direct hire means in the federal government.
I'm going to refer that to my better half.
So I can talk a little bit more about that. So a direct hire, you can find, so it's a special authority allowing us to do exactly what it means. We can pull your resume. I can meet you on the street. I can meet you at a job fair, and I can give you a job. So a lot of times you'll see them as announcements online, but that does not mean that if you were at a recruiting fair or you met a hiring manager on the street that you couldn't give them their resume and they could say, okay, you're my person. Of course, you have to meet all of the competencies that Alex talks about. You have to meet the 1 year specialized experience, the big 1 year that we always talk about and you read about in the job announcements. But as long as you meet the core competencies and have the 1 year specialist experience, that direct hire authority allows us to just pull you without competition. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be seeing those job announcements on USA Jobs or other mechanisms like Monster for our Intel community. And there's a plethora of other platforms out there, but that's really what it means. It means that inherently we don't have to compete. We have to uphold merit systems principles and make sure we're not violating our prohibited personnel practices, but we have to do it openly and fairly, but we're going to make sure that we're getting the right people at the right time to fill our jobs. So it's a great thing for us.
And as a hiring manager, that could be me. As a hiring manager, let me switch off real quick here. Let's try that. As a hiring manager, pretty much echo everything what Julie said. I know for me, I do love using them, but in an equitable approach. Last year, I had to build 2 branches. So I used a kind of a wide net. I went after competitive. I love hiring people off the streets. I'll admit it, I poach from other agencies. I'll actually reach out to individuals, and if they're a current Fed, I'll talk to them if I can do a lateral transfer. I also use special hiring authorities as for veterans, Schedule A, disability, Peace Corps. I also love working with Peace Corps. So I use a kind of a wide net approach. I just don't want to rely on veterans. I just don't want to rely on the competitive side when it comes to on the public side of hiring. But,
and that is exactly what we encourage hiring managers when they go out. We encourage you to cast your broadest net. So if you're looking for someone to hit the job running, sometimes that may not be the best fit. I think that there's this perception that someone has to come in and do the job immediately. And so perhaps we might steer, in a different direction from hiring from the public. But what I love about the cybersecurity field and some of these more technical career fields is that the private industry is who are doing it best. And so we need that talent. And so that perception is really, I would say, really shifting away from these very technical and scientific career fields. So I see we have a couple of questions coming in.
Yes, there are. I don't know what's going on today with the echoes. That was so weird. But yes, we have some questions coming in. So Melissa wants to know, first of all, will this be on demand? Because she'd like to share it with people. Yes, Melissa, I will send you the link. I will put a link in the chat for the YouTube link, and then it's also on my profile as well.
Can I add one thing real quick? And before we get to you, Julius, I see your question. I want to just add one more thing to what Julie said, that as a hiring manager in HR, how we work together. So if I'm working with a special hiring authority, I love having coffee chats. However, the major difference between private sector and government is I can't just hire you. If I think you're qualified and I want to hire you and you submit your resume, I have to submit that resume to human resources for, Julie?
To ensure that you meet the minimum qualifications. So
that's what I love about government. One of the things about working with HR is they keep me out of trouble and they help me make sure I don't fall into prohibited personnel practices. So when somebody says, well, you guys are already hiring people from, whatever. No, we have folks like Julie who are holding folks like me accountable to make sure we practice the best, the hiring techniques and upholding the merit principles, because I believe in them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Before we jump into Julius, I just wanted to reiterate something that you said earlier around the 20 seconds that you take to view resumes. And my eyes opened really wide when you said 400 resumes, because I was like, OMG.
Yeah.
So I want people to realize, this is what happens. And people ask me a lot of questions about resumes all the time. And, you all are the experts in this space. And this is why I have you on, because you can talk to federal resumes because they are different than the ones that you're getting in private industry. However, what Alex said happens across the board. Typically, managers don't even look at 400 resumes. But when they do, what I took away from that was that 20-second what you're scanning, you're looking for. If it fits, it goes to the left, or if it doesn't fit, if it fits, it goes to the right, or however, one goes in the G file and one goes, one stays on the desk. So you want to make sure that your resume is providing whatever it is that hiring manager is looking for quickly, upfront, not multiple pages, that type of thing.
So before we get to Julius and go to Alex, so kind of walking through the process, just to what you said, Renee, the first in any process, whether that hiring manager really, pulls your resume off the street or you apply for the job, the most important thing is you're selling yourself to two people, and HR is going to spend the most time on your resume. We are looking through every bit of it for your core competencies. So if it's buried down, yes, it takes us longer to get through it. And honestly, more than likely, you might be missed. So making sure that your resume is on point, it highlights, use the formatting tools to your advantage. Italicize, bold, make sure it's clean. Bullets are definitely my recommendation is narrative format, but in bullets, so they're succinct and easy to read. Help HR get you to the hiring manager. So in my career, I've reviewed thousands and thousands of resumes. And in some cases, that's why I love Julius's question, is why is this so difficult? Well, to be honest, I've hired for positions or sent to the hiring manager for positions, applications where there have been hundreds upon hundreds of applicants. And so we can only send so many. And in most agencies, I won't say good or bad, but in most agencies, we have to narrow the scope down to give managers a reasonable amount of people to look at. So it may be 10, it may be 3, it may be 20 or 30. It really depends upon what the applicant pool looks like and how many people make it through HR in our review of your qualifications. So if you're getting referred to the hiring manager, your resume is on point for us. You're meeting the 1 year of specialized experience requirements, and you're minimally qualifying for what we're looking for. But then when you go to Alex, I'm going to pass it to you now.
So before I talk to Renee, you know what, Renee, my wife rolled her eyes when I bought this $300 mic, and I'm hoping I paid good money for this because I'm hoping it's not causing too much problem. Anyway, Tim Allen, gotta have good stuff. But before I talk about the hiring manager, I think the one challenge, Julius, and I find it with many people, is that, and I'm going to give out something that I don't give out because I have a framework for my own LLC. I'm going to give out a term called SABRE. And being a Marine vet, as a non-commissioned officer, we were able to be able to have a SABRE on our side. And for SABRE, I'm going to give to Julius because Julius looks like a really cool guy there. The biggest mistake for many job seekers, for federal jobs or for academia, private sector, not-for-profit, they don't know themselves. They don't do the effective SWOT analysis or look at themselves as a business model or a value proposition. They don't know what their transferable skills are. They just don't know themselves. So for Sabre, you need to do a self-assessment. You need to know yourself either through your own journaling to be able to identify what your transferable skills are, and also maybe take some vocational tests like the Strong's Inventory. Okay. Then you need to audit the environment. So most people, when, maybe if they do know themselves, they actually, and we had an individual during office hours last night where she was applying for all these government jobs. But I said, okay, what is the 4-digit series you're going after? Have you researched on OPM? Have you looked at maybe 5 to 7 job announcements and looked at the common core competencies? I do all this stuff myself. She's like, no, I didn't do that. I don't do that. Well, that's your mistake. You don't know what's out there in the job market. It's particular in that career field in the federal government. So for A, you're going to audit the environment. You're going to see what's out there. You got to be able to identify a target to be able to shoot. So not with S, self-assessment, know thyself. A, audit the environment, know where you're going to. Then B, if you need to build your credentials, either another degree, most likely, maybe not most of the time, or a credential, or even maybe job shadowing, or maybe whatever, but look at maybe building your credibility, enhancing your individual marketability. And then R, reinvent. And this is where most people will start will take the R and put it right in front of the horse. Just show me how to do a doggone resume. And that's everyone's mistake. They don't do the proper Sabre. S, self-assessment. A, audit. B, build your credentials. R, reinvent yourself. That's where your professional brand comes into play. And then, of course, E, which is to endure, which is constant career management. Dick Bowles once said, the late Dick Bowles, once you get your first job, the next day you start looking for a new job, which means you have goals, short and long-term goals. So that's a career coach coming out of me. And Sabre, I'm not going to say anything else because I haven't got it. I haven't attached the LLC to it yet as part of my business model. Now, as a hiring manager who's worked in 6 different departments, and all my promotions have been in different departments, is you're not writing your doggone anthology. It's not about you. And in this environment, in today's world, especially in the U.S. right now, and I'm a Gen Xer. And so when I go into an organization, I'm like, what can I do to help with your pain area? Matter of fact, when I went back to my current place, which was Customs and Border Protection, I went back for the 3rd time. And then the young lady or the executive said to me, so tell me about yourself. Well, how I answer that is, well, before I tell you about myself, the typical anthology that most people will do, I'll say, well, tell me about a pain area that I can help you with. It's all about the employer, not you. So if I'm looking at someone's anthology that goes all the way back to high school back in 1981, you're wasting space. You need to actually align your transferable skills, that amazing stuff that you got in your swipe file, your abilities, your successes, because everyone has them. You just need to align them to the position itself. And that position is part of a career field, which is a series in the government, such as for cyber. Julie, what is actually the series for cyber?
Alex, don't ask me off the top of my head. I will give it to Renee later. I'll have a little time.
I'm not going to ask you. Huh?
So actually the cyber career field and the cyber accepted service hiring authority transcends a lot of different series. And so that's very hard to narrow it down. We traditionally see it in IT, in a lot of data analytics now, and things. I mean, you can say program management, but even HR specialists can actually apply to under the hiring authority for Cybersecurity Schedule A. So, but to get back, to really nail down why is this so difficult, Julius, I think Alex said it best is, I mean, honestly, you need to be targeting your job search and you need to make sure that you're highlighting your skill set so that if you're not making it through HR, then it's because I honestly just don't think you're applying to the right positions or you're not tailoring your resume. And it looks like we have a question about that I think would help answer Julius's question.
Hey, go ahead. It is probably me. I'm so sorry. One last
No,
ad.
it might be me. Go ahead.
When it comes to your resume, Julius, and I'm doing it myself right now, and it's a great company. I would recommend. I won't recommend I won't recommend a company per se, but even look at maybe a resume writer, a really good one, someone who's credentialed, to help you craft out your saber, so to speak, on your resume to make sure it's aligned to a career field that is in cybersecurity. So just maybe consider actually having someone else do your resume, or run your resume through some trusted confidants who pretty much bloody it up for you.
Well, I wanted to add in that I don't know if Julius is already in the private sector and looking at transition, because that in and of itself, and I don't know where he stands, or if he's actively looking or passively or whatever. But what I've seen as a lot of challenges for folks who are in the private sector in particular is that they're getting poached so often from into external, from private sector people, that they don't have to update resumes and do these various things. So this is very, very interesting, for you all to share. These are the things that need to be done. And it could be one of the challenges with, getting private sector people into the federal sector, the ones that are working. Because coming from like someone like me who I speak to these people all the time, they're getting, they don't even have, they're getting their information, or they don't even have to do a resume. Like we just go to LinkedIn, and if the profile aligns, it's like, okay, so that's why I was curious about the direct hire piece. And then also there was something else that you said, Alex, that I wrote. I was like taking such copious notes here. But I'm going to jump into Tasha's question in a second. And I just want to, there's so many things to unpack: the SWOT analysis and the self-assessment and the SABRE thing. I just love all of that. I love it. Okay, Julius, if you have follow-up questions, Julius, let us know. So Tasha Andrews wants to know, do you recommend, in parentheses, she said, truthfully, editing your resume to a job post? I'm going to say yes, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think, this is where private industry and public really align to each other. My best friend's in private, and she is in career transition right now. And it is, when I hear about her job application search, it is every resume. She's literally rewriting it every time. I wouldn't say you need to do full rewrites, but you do need to make sure that the core competencies that you are looking for are relevantly placed and highlighted in that announcement, and in your resume, excuse me. So if you're applying for two different types of jobs or two different types of program management, and you're going to want to make sure that resume is tailored. And Alex definitely talks a lot about that, and in our own webinars, and making sure that you are targeting those resumes. So looking through the big three things, you're looking at the job requirements, so what we call the knowledge, skills, and abilities. You're looking at the job duties, and you're looking at the questionnaire. So all of those things put together are actually parts of the job description that you would get when on the first day of your job, what we call position description. Everything derives from that document. And so it's a very good indication of what they're looking for, the types of skills that they're looking for, the types of work that you'll be doing. So making sure that your resume, don't copy and paste, that is a violation. But making sure that your skills align is definitely going to get you through HR. And then to Alex's point a moment ago about how long he looks at a resume, making sure that, and I'll be honest, I do it to the same thing as a hiring manager in HR. When I'm looking for HR specialists, I know my stuff. I know what I'm looking for, and I can really pick out very quickly if you know your stuff or not. And so having those STAR stories, whether it's through SWOT or STAR or CCAR, for those who may be familiar with the executive service, the situation, task, action, results. Making sure your STAR stories are included and highlighted in your resume will also help you get through HR, as well as highlighted to that hiring manager. So absolutely, Tasha, definitely tailor that resume to each job post.
Julie, what's CCHR?
CCAR, it's contact, challenge, context, action, result.
Yes.
made me flip.
It's just another way to capture your story. You got CCAR. Also, you have the star. And even in Dick Bowles' book, What Color Is Your Parachute, he has a great format for how to do your job story. But let me say one thing, Natasha, and everyone else. So when I got, one of the advantages I have over other people is not education. I would say that. I was kicked out my senior year for fighting every Tom, Dick, and Harry. But as after the Marine Corps, I went to Cleveland, Ohio. I needed to find a gig, a bartending gig or a waitering gig. Well, I didn't apply online, and I didn't apply applications. I literally went to Kinko's, grabbed a generic application, filled it out, made 100 copies, put it in my backpack, and I hit the streets, landed 3 jobs that first day. So I'm that way, because one thing about me is when I think of a job search, it's not a job search, Tasha. It's a job campaign. And with that job campaign, even after college, when I put on my door the war room, I landed a job within 3 months hiring for UPS for a company called Cisco company in near Cleveland, Ohio. And how I do that is you don't just use online advertisements. You're using a campaign. And here I'll give everybody something. If people reach out to me and Julie on LinkedIn, I'll send you a job search. I have a kind of a pro bono tool because most people, when they look for a job, they spend roughly about 90% looking online, and that's not the way to go. Because people think, well, to look for a job is apply online. No, the yield rate for an interview, about 100 interviews for a looking online is roughly about 4%. So what I have is a tool that outlines 19 job search tactics. 19 job search tactics. And going back to Tasha, trying to bring it back to her is, other than, yes, it is hard writing a resume or changing a resume. Everything's hard in life. So let's do it. All right. Gung ho. Hurrah. But what I did was when I looked for a government job, I organized myself. I had a folder for all my cover letters, my resumes, not just for government resume, networking card, all that good stuff. I had my arsenal to be able to apply to job ads, hand off to networking, whatever. Also your references. Also when it comes to KSAs, I love writing essays, having a list of all your KSAs or your star stories to be able to pull from. So don't consider it as a job search, Tasha. It's a job campaign. And you're really working for yourself. And here's my last thing, and then I tell people when I'm speaking on site, is that I'll ask somebody, how many resumes do you send out a week? And most of the time I get 5 or 6. And I'll tell them with love, I say, well, I'll tell you what, if I would probably hire someone else to actually look for your job. And when they find a job, they should fire you because you should not be sending 5 or 6 resumes a week. That's 5 or 6 resumes an hour. An hour. You're roughly gunning out, you're really putting out there, and I did this myself, so I'm not talking for something with no experience. In today's job market, with all the 19 job search tactics, especially going after government, academia, private sector, not-for-profit, whatever, contracting, I would say between I'm going to be nice here, 75 to 125 resumes a week. That it kind of fills out your 40 hours a week. And there's another thing. People say, well, I'm only maybe working 10 hours a week. Then I would fire yourself and then hire somebody else to look for your job. So it's 40 hours a week, sending out between 75 to 125 resumes a week. You'll land something within, I know this environment's tough right now, but you'll land something quicker compared to someone who's only doing 5 resumes a week and 10 hours basically a week in their job search. So it's a job search campaign, and I've done it myself. And I know it's hard for you guys, especially during COVID. And I get it. I totally get it. But as a career coach, as a hiring manager, as a professional misfit as I am, it's a job search campaign, 40 hours a week, 75 to 125 resumes a week. Does everybody got that? And I hope they do, because I'm telling the truth.
I got it. I think
you have to back up a little bit, Alex.
You're
getting a little muffled, but
yeah, Alex. I mean, that is That's everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's so, so, so true. And people, they tend to get frustrated, and we get it. We understand. But I mean, there's so many pieces to the puzzle that you just put together, Alex. We'll be sure to share the link to the 19 job tag.
I'll actually personally send to them. If they send a LinkedIn message, I'll send them an Excel file, and it's a pretty good tool.
And I have you tagged, and we're going to tag you in here again. But he's so right, folks. You know, when people come on and they ask me questions, the people who've come on to this show, so breaking into cybersecurity, many of you know, but I always talk about it. The first time that the reason why we started this is because people were struggling so much to break into the industry. And so we wanted to hear from people who were successful, and we wanted to hear from them recent. So Alex is telling you what he did back in the day, and we want to hear from people who are doing it right now. So the 100 resumes in person in the backpack, you know, who's doing that 100 resume COVID-19, you know, version 3.0? Like, so we wanted to hear from that. And we got all these awesome people that come in, and that's exactly what they said. They said they spent, you know, they put out hundreds of resumes. One guy did, 60 something interviews. This one young lady talked about 30 something interviews. And she said it got to the point where she said, I was cool as a cucumber because she knew all the questions. By the time she got to the last batch of interviews, it's like, oh, boom, 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 boom. Like, I know everything because she's been through all of that. So it is definitely a challenging time right now. And people, and, you know, especially if you're breaking in, Tasha, I'm not sure like where you are in your career, but if you're new to this, especially new to the cybersecurity industry, it does take some time and effort. And to Alex's point, you know, life is tough anyway, so might as well just get started. Get started quick. But I love that job campaign thing. I love that. It's so true.
Yeah. But it's all about what you put into it. I mean, it truly is. Even once you're in federal service, you're not stopping. To Alex's point, like you should be preparing and looking for your next job. You should be constantly from day one growing and nurturing yourself, networking with your colleagues, networking across federal agencies and with the private sector. I mean, a lot of our cyber jobs are hand in hand with contractors. I've seen people go back and forth multiple times within a very short amount of time, just based on opportunities available. And so Alex is just dead on. It is a constant search. To Tasha and your question, we feds do the same thing. Just getting in the door does not mean you're exempt from all of these requirements. We go through the same hiring processes for promotion. Our candidate pool may be smaller, but it's still very competitive. And so to all of the things that we've said tonight, it's just incredibly important to have your resume on point. To Alex's point, getting your resume out there. His great career coach advice, getting on LinkedIn and posting the federal and having, you know, putting relevant content out there shows a lot of the skills that you have when you have no other platforms to use. Making sure that you're, you know, publishing as much as you can. If it's just blogs, that's an incredible resource that your competitors may not be doing. And we are looking at those tools. We are utilizing social media as a recruiting technique, as a reference check. So it is a full-time job, regardless if you want a promotion or you're trying to expand your horizon or just get a job, period. So it is not easy, but we have a process in place. It's the same process every time you do it. It's just the resume that just needs to change. So. And
Julie made some very good comment, Julie, about maybe writing a blog or getting yourself out there. If you remember, I landed my first PR job by doing my own first PR campaign. You can Google them too. It's the Richland County Young Marines. It was a youth program that I helped build with the Salvation Army in Mansfield, Ohio. Did it for free after work, sat on the ground, built my campaign, got on TV, and all that good stuff. And I did it all for free. And it got me my first job in Washington, D.C. So, is it Yave? I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. The best way to market your experience, because you got great experience. You have security background, you got certification. It's just expanding your network. And for me, how I expand my network, every place I go to, is I jump into the community. And Federal Career Connection has allowed me to extend my my network to academia, to other not-for-profits, to recently to the workforce development in Alexandria. So putting yourself out there, giving some of your free time is a great way to network. But let me just give it a caveat. When you're giving free time, especially in your guys' situation in career transition, don't give you free time by picking apples for the fall. You want to be doing something that's building your skills, that's positioning yourself to network with other individuals within or outside that circle of cybersecurity. So with your guys' skill sets, you could be helping people or doing a blog how to make sure that personal computers, how you maintain security even on your home PC. And that's a great blog there, or a YouTube video. So putting yourself out there, maybe taking 5% of your job search and doing a volunteer or something to get out there, that's going to raise your credibility, because it did for me back in, and I'm dating myself, back in 1989. In 1889 is when I kind of put together that Young Marines program. Okay.
Oh, but Alex now said something that I got to say to that.
Oh,
don't forget, guys, volunteer and unpaid experience is equivalent to paid experience on your resume. So, in fact, I'll bring BB up again. We talked a lot about when she was coming in and talking about, we were like, well, how can we market you? Like, when you come to us, what are we doing to really build your marketability for your own job search? And so to Yavi, I hope I said your name right. If you don't have the experience, do exactly what Alex just said. Volunteer, post, do anything, do videos. I mean, tons of people use YouTube videos to learn new techniques and really build that out, and use that as your non-paid experience to get your foot in the door. There are the new executive order to hire based off of experience is not just paid experience. We are looking for people who are proactive, who are going out there and are self-starters. All of the behavioral, the wishy things that we all, think are not important about an interview are critical. And so get out there, use that Security Plus certification, which I know was not easy to obtain. I've heard that course and that certification is definitely a tough one. So use it to increase your marketability with that non-paid experience.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's amazing.
I don't know what's going on today. I got to tuck the StreamYard. So I don't know. I'm sorry, everyone, for the echo. Okay. But Yavi, no, to the audience. Yavi, I wanted to read his question because I typically read the questions first for people who are. This is also a podcast. Yes. No, it's all good. I know.
Sorry about that.
But what's awesome is that you're just jumping in, which is fantastic. But because we do it audio and video, Yavi's question that Alex and Julie just answered was, if you have a Security Plus certification without experience, how can you market yourself for cybersecurity jobs in the government? And so everything that Julie just talked about, everything that Alex just talked about, having that campaign, volunteering strategically, going to, especially right now, helping people secure their personal networks. Oh my goodness. Like, how much help is that right now? And to their point, doing all of that and then blogging about it, or doing a vlog or a video or YouTube or whatever to teach others. You would not understand how quickly everyone, that you become like a name in the industry. You become the go-to person. Like, when you apply and they Google you and they're like, oh, wow, look at all the stuff that Yavi's done. Of course he knows what he's talking about. So, or she. Okay, so we are quickly approaching 8 p.m. So I want to make sure we get to the last two, hopefully. Well, I don't know, maybe more questions, but we'll send all the questions that are out there. But Stacy Matthews asked, are resumes ranked by most to least qualified? Does the timing matter, as in earliest submission versus last applicant?
That's Julie.
So definitely talk like HR. So the resume is ranked by the score that is produced through the questionnaire that you complete. So yes, it is based on highest score to lowest score. But that does not mean we will not go through all the scores. We may start at 100 and, everybody thinks if they check a certain box, they'll end up with a certain score. That is not that is the trend of that ABCDE is going away. You're going to find more behavioral-based questionnaires as we go forward, and a little bit more analytics put behind it. The federal government has invested in IO psychologists to help us build these questionnaires so that we can really pull that job competency out of you when you're answering those questions. But it does still equate to a score between 70 and 100. And we do start at the top. It's random, so if everybody scores a 100, it randomly sorts you. It could pull up in a different order every time. That's just the way that it works, and it helps us be marketable. But we always finish a score. So if we're looking at all 100s, we're going to look at every one of those 100s. There may be 200, but we have to look at the whole list. We're not just looking at a top 10 ranked 1 through 5, and then that's it, and they're referred. We're looking through our whole score blocks to get a round out number. It could be 20, it could be 10, it could be 30. It just depends on the agency, the hiring manager, and how many they want to see at a time. But it's always going to have an equitable number. So if you have 100 people who scored 100 and 20 of them qualify, all 20 would go towards the hiring manager. And so no, Stacy, timing does not necessarily matter when it comes to the ranking and the rating and ranking of your application, but some announcements do have cutoffs. So you'll want to check the top of the announcement is where it usually is. If they're stopping at 50 or by a certain date, you're just going to have to read through that. But that does not necessarily determine your ranking order when we're reviewing your application. Going to the hiring manager side, when they get it, they don't see score. Everybody who is referred to a hiring manager is randomly, usually it's alphabetical order. So if you've got the same last name, it's going to be in alphabetical order. And sometimes it's just random, but you're randomly placed to them. So they are looking at, they don't know what scores they receive. They just know that HR has qualified them and ready to move on to that hiring manager for review. So it's very fair and equitable process. If you ever do not get referred by HR to the hiring manager, my first stop, I love answering the question of why did I not get referred? Call the specialist or email the specialist at the bottom of the announcement and just ask the question. It may be, well, you didn't discuss this in your job announcement. Maybe one of the KSAs was something that you needed to discuss. And they can highlight that for you. We keep very detailed notes about why we disqualify an individual so that we can answer those questions back to you. So same with the hiring manager. If you go through an interview and you don't get selected, ask for feedback. Keep increasing your marketability by networking and building yourself up throughout the process.
Yeah, when HR and Julie, as HR with Julie reviews that all the resumes, they put on a list called a cert. Then it comes to the hiring manager like me, and I will go through them. I will literally go through all the resumes. And so when I use a 3-tier approach, basically when I review the resumes by core competencies, then I select about maybe I don't know, about a good percentage, maybe 25% or so or more, because I like filling my whole day with interviews. And so what I use is when I do interview and I use a panel, I have a structured interview approach when it comes to the set of questions, and I use a decision matrix to be able to score individuals. I use basically the basic elements of a decision matrix, which is basically everyone should know out there. And I use a basically weighted score as we're going through the structured questions. And we do use behavior-based questions. And of course, one of my favorite questions I use is what's the current book that you're reading? What favorite book are you reading at this time? Because I want to make sure that who we hire, they're always learning, continuing development. And so that's one of my questions. I will ask, what book you're reading? Tell me about it, because I want to make sure I hire somebody who's always trying to learn.
Mm-hmm. I love that. The continuous learning part is something that we hear over and over and over again from people, especially in the security space. And I know you all hear overall, but because everything is so fast paced and everything moves so quickly, like the continuous learning part is so important. So, we have 5 minutes left. Julius put this out here. Julius said, it's not a question, it's a comment, really. So Julius says, thanks for the words of wisdom, Alex and Julie. A month ago, I did have my resume revamped by a professional resume writer, which takes care of the B in Sabre. I'm currently in the private sector, actively looking in the federal workspace.
That's awesome.
So, yes.
We wish you the best of luck. Yeah. Make sure that you're looking for those virtual hiring events. Many agencies, and I network across them all, just like Alex does. I mean, we're continuously getting better, but we are working with private sector hiring events as well as hosting our own. So Google the heck out of that. Look at opm.gov. As well as USA Jobs at the bottom. They have lists if we are recruiting, have recruiting events that we're posting. Those are just great mechanisms to go out and really get your resume out there, and make sure you're following the federal agencies that really meet your core competencies and mission needs. We were talking to an individual last night who her current organization didn't quite fit for her. And so make sure you're researching these organizations, following them, making sure the mission aligns to yourself, so that when you're going into that interview, you're going to rock it, because you're going to know what their priorities are. You're going to know what their goals are. You're going to know how your skills can align and translate that in your interview back to them. So do your research, because they will do their research on you, and come into that interview prepared to just knock their socks off.
And Julius, I have a question for you, because I think you emailed me before. Are you part of an association, a professional association?
That's a great question.
Did he respond back?
Not yet.
Okay.
It will probably, it takes a little bit of time.
Okay.
But
so Julius, let us know, because everyone, you need to be part. You need to be part of a professional association or associations that's within your career field. I know for me, as I'm looking as the next encore career, I'm part of the National Career Development Association. And also, I love networking with veterans, so I'm with the Veterans of Foreign Wars. So being part of an association, a professional association, or a fraternity or sorority or something, is going to definitely enhance your networking capabilities. And one last thing, be part of like accountability group. I know for us, FCC, right now, we are an amazing group. We go hiking together. We share ideas. We help each other. So I'm part of a group, an amazing group. And also I'm part of I have a professional accountability team that serves kind of as an advisor for me. So I would recommend everybody be part of a kind of accountability group, 2 or 3 people who will hold you accountable to, number one, make sure you're working 40 hours a week in your job search, and you're sending out 75 to 125 resumes a week. If you don't have an accountability group, you need to get one, because I use one and it's been invaluable in my life, both professionally and personally.
Absolutely.
So Julius is part of InfraGuard, which is the perfect one for security. Julius, smart. So it is now 7:59 p.m. Any final words of wisdom before we leave? Julie, you said something that I know automatically how I'm going to kick off the next one.
Okay.
You talked about reaching out to HR and asking why you didn't get the opportunity, and that you all take such copious notes and everything is so documented and detailed. And I don't think that people even remotely realize that that's something that can be done. And it's very different than what happens, especially in some large private organizations, or not private, but for like Fortune 1000, Fortune 500 organizations, where someone can call and you can give feedback, but the feedback is kind of more vague. So I'm really, really curious about, calling up, like, where people find that information and what they should be asking and all that stuff. So we got to remember that for next time, for when we
absolutely
do this next month.
Yes, ma'am. No, this has been wonderful. Thank you guys so much for being such a great audience. Afterwards, we've been getting questions and LinkedIn requests, and we really appreciate that. But just remember, we also have our office hours the second Tuesday of every month, from 6:30 to 7:30. And we can answer your questions there with our cohort of group as well. And We have webinars every month. Our next one is right on point with what we're talking about today, and that's managing your career and really delving into a lot of the things that we've talked about. So really hope that everyone comes and checks us out then, because we don't get to post ours live afterwards. So you have to come see us live to check it out and hear our amazing speaker, Laura Allen, who will be speaking next month, and really help you take all the things that we talked about tonight to the next level and apply it to your career.
And one last thing, make sure you go to federalcareerconnection.com. And also we have a LinkedIn page, a company page on LinkedIn. So it's been live for like 3 weeks. Julie and I keep it updated. We need one more person to make 100 followers. So we're looking forward to having 100 followers because it's brand new.
But thank you so much, Renee. I really, honestly, if anyone, this is their first time seeing Renee and this group, I am listening to it. I'm not in the cybersecurity field, but listening to Dr. Dan and some of the amazing experts. I think Tasha made the comment that this is not her career field, but it's great transferable information. Well, that's what I'm receiving back from you, and your experts that you bring on board, whether it's from the Privacy Act specialist that you had a few weeks ago to Dr. Dan's weekly encouragement. It's such great transferable information. So don't get nailed down to a job series or career field. Come and check out and really build your toolbox of great advice. So
wonderful.
Thank you.
And thank you both. You're now officially a part of the team. So
you love it.
That's right. So next month we will see FCC back here again. It may not be Julie or Alex because everyone's tag teaming, but tons of fascinating, amazing folks with federal experience are coming, and it's going to be the fourth Wednesday of every month, correct?
That's
7
right.
p.m. So we have a fixed schedule. We'll be here every Wednesday. I mean, not every Wednesday, the fourth Wednesday of every month. We're doing it. I think it was Christmas Eve and the day before Thanksgiving and all those times. So October, November, December, we're all set. So make sure you come back. I'll post it out there and let everyone know. And if you have any questions, please go follow Federal Career Connection on LinkedIn. Make Alex's night and get to 100 people. And let's do this. All right. All right.
Yes.
Folks. You guys are good.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.